back to the MotorFab YouTube channel. Thank you all guys for tuning in last week. I think we've got over 10,000 views in that episode, so that's fantastic. Really enjoying the support, absolutely love it. Thank you very much guys. Heaps of new subscribers, love that. Keep smashing the subscribe button, we're nearly at 5,000. So let's get that 5,000 underway with 4-7 something, so we're not far off. So hopefully, if heaps of you guys click the subscribe button, we can crack that 5,000 this week. That'd be awesome. We're progressing on the Torana. That's awesome. Monaro, we had a little bit less time on the Torana this week because the Monaro went to the Dyno yesterday. So, but I was excited about going to the Dyno, but it turned out so exciting because the Nitrous solenoids on there, I'll show you in a minute. I bought secondhand Nitrous solenoids off Facebook Marketplace, as I did with everything on the car. And that was the one thing that's let me down. Those parts didn't do what I needed them to do. Basically, when the solenoid would open, sometimes if you had too much fuel pressure in it, it would do it on the fuel, and the Nitrous was doing it every time. Solenoid would basically slam open and slam shut again, and then just bounce. So the Nitrous would bat, and it just wouldn't. It wouldn't do its thing. So we tried everything. We tried wiring. We tried all sorts of stuff, and basically the only thing left is the solenoids aren't doing the job. So I don't know why, but I think we'll just replace them with ones that are meant for the job. So some nice new ones. So we'll do that. Bumping's just cruising, nothing really happening over there. So we will get stuck into this episode and yeah, enjoy. Thank you all for tuning in.
Follow white rabbit. I'm taking potions, call me Alice. Watch me grow taller. Yeah, rabbit's watches in his pocket. Yeah, he stays late, but he leads me, so I follow. Wandering around in Wonderland, wondering how or if I'll ever get back. Wandering around in Wonderland, wondering how or if I'll ever get back.
We reckon, Saxon? What's it gonna make?
Oh, no idea.
No
idea.
Not even having a guess. Here we are on the Dyno HPS, strapping it down. We'll probably run it first with the tune-up that was in it at the track and just see what it does, and then we'll go from there. Stay tuned. So after getting back from the dyno yesterday, a bit disappointed, decided to give the Monaro a couple of hits on the driveway, just because I can. And yeah, that Motorfab bolt-in rear suspension kit, it is the business. It 5500 on the chip, on the trans brake, cold tires, no burnout, and that thing all but dead hooks. So it's it definitely does what it's supposed to do and goes dead straight at that. So it's you guys from Talk Hub Media, they're a big fan of the channel, always chiming in the comments. Thanks fellas, appreciate the support. They got a doing a Pro Charge XY over on their channel, and they're trying to get me to go to Red Sentinats, I think it is, and hit me up for a run against the Monaro on the street. But if I ever do get there, guys, game on. I'll run anyone on the street on an unprepped surface on that car, because that thing just hooks like you would not believe. So yeah, if it ever happens, that'd be awesome, but we'll see how we go. So yeah, check out our suspension kits and stuff like that on our website. Definitely the way to go. Down the back here, there you go, this is just a little 235, 26.8.5, the 235 drag radial. Don't need much tyre under them to make them do the business. And yeah, there's a bolt into the factory location Motorfab kit. Really easy install. If you guys watch the build right through, you would have seen that happen. And piece of cake. Really is a good way to go. Right, well, from my point of view, I'm going to nip this in the butt once and for all. There's been a lot of controversy in the comments about the engine plate. Let's go in so you can all see. Yes, there's a dummy mount on the old rail, which is not really doing a lot, but that's cool, it doesn't matter. It's got a mount down the bottom. You all saw it. There is also a chrome molly plate. This is a dummy plate to hold everything in while we set it up. This plate gets fully welded into this section of the chassis, then is braced forward and is braced back. My mind cannot twist. But what makes me even more confident that it will work, if we go over here, this is the engine and combo that will go in that car over there. So, I know, basically this car is heavier. This car's gone 7.80 in the quarter. We haven't run it in the quarter for a while. In the eighth, it's gone 500 many times, which is actually 1.5 tenths to the eighth quicker than the 780 pass. So you could call that a 760 something out the back door. So this car being mid-ish 7-second car, we know exactly what it's going to do. We're going to try to make a little bit more power, but we are in a lighter car with a complete tube chassis. So if you look under here, there is no engine plate. Doesn't have an engine plate at all. It has engine mounts. You can see them up there, that's that purple thing. Down to the factory cross member. All standard shit. So it runs a stock standard rubber Turbo 400 mount on the gearbox and a little solid mount in between, solid spacer in between the factory front cross member and the factory engine mount coupler that bolts to the block. So if that engine mount with no engine plate, there's no rear plate either. Down there's a bit of a spaghetti wiring, but yep, there is no engine plate at the back, no engine plate at the front, just engine mounts and a rubber gearbox mount at the back. If that can hold that same combo in that car that's heavier, 2 engine plates, front and rear, the rear being completely welded in to the chassis, is definitely going to hold the same combo in a full tube chassis car. So as far as I'm concerned, end of story, I know it's going to work. There is 1 or 2 people out there that, I think just one, that is sure that it's not going to work, but I'm very sure that it is. And I've put many engine plates in many cars. I know it's going to work. And yeah, like I said, the Monaro is just engine mounts, but it's not fast. But 7-second car, no problems. Probably same load as what it'll take to make that run a 6. Maybe a little more. That's why I went with an engine plate. So yeah, that's enough about the engine plate. I'm done on the matter. Thank you guys for the support. For the people that can see that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to engine plates. Right, so we're moving back. We've finished up the front of the Torana for a little bit. We will return. Moving back now. You see I've got my bit of my tail shaft loop sitting there. I've got to get back to putting that in. So we've got our 4-link bars. We've got the uppers and the lowers. We've got my fancy adjustable front bracket system that I developed. It's my design. We'll get more into that later. We've got some dummy mounts on the back here, so get everything set up. Now that holds the diff from rotational force and does everything, do it instant. We'll cover that in another episode. Today we are going to get started on the track bar, the sit-down blocks, but at the moment there's nothing stopping the diff pushing left and right. So there's all sorts of different ways you can track locate the axle in a car. Old school, people used to run some people still do, like a crossbar between the 2 lower 4-link bars so that it's rigid and it can't move. They have a tendency to bind if the car twists, in my opinion. There's obviously you can triangulate the top bars, but we're running a parallel 4-link because that's better for drag racing. And there's a Pennard rod system as well. Some people go across from here, across to the diff and stop the diff. So there's a few inherent problems with all different ways of doing it. So the Pennard rod, it has an arc, so as it goes up and down, it swings, so the diff moves in the car as the suspension goes up or down, which is not what we're looking for. Excuse these ugly bits of angle holding things up here. Locking them with a crossbar tends to bind. These all work, and there's all ways people have gone fast, but pretty much the most common way now with modern built chassis is it's been around for a while, is a Y piece. So it goes in the bottom of the diff. Now, I used to do a lot of circuit car stuff, and the rule with circuit cars is the lower you can get, whatever stops the diff going side to side, that is what creates what's called the roll center of the car. So if the body roll of the car will basically pivot from that point. So if that point is up on top of the diff, you're going to have a lot of body roll. If it's down under the diff, you're going to have not so much. Now with a drag car, we're not going around corners, so it doesn't matter. But it sort of does matter when the car gets squirrely or out of line. Personally, I'd prefer to have the roll center as low as I can, so I'm going to run mine right down off the bottom of the diff. Now with a Y piece, you can adjust the left to right track. You'll see it all as I make it to push the diff across, and holds it very still. And then in one end, the diff end in this case, we have a slip, so as the diff goes up and down, the arc of the arms changes, so the slip slips in and out. So I'll show you as we go. It's much easier me pointing at stuff. So let's get into it. So we've got our solid bar for the internal part of our slip. It's 33mm OD diameter, and the chromoly that we're using for the slip is 30. So we're gonna have to skim that down until it fits snug in our chromoly. It's very important that it's a snug fit. So I'll buzz that down in the lathe now and make it slip and start making the rest of it. So busy working on our track locator to hold the diff. We're moving side to side in the car over here. When we left off, I was machining this with a thread in there for the prime joint. And this is a bit of solid bar. So that's our slide. So that's at the diff end. That's at the chassis end. So as the suspension goes up and down, there's obviously an arc because of the arm, the 4-link bars here, so it goes up and down, it has an arc, so that slide can slide in or out to take up the arc, and it can also twist like that, so that the diff is able to do that in the car, but it can't go left to right because it'll push on the angle bars. So if it tries to go this way, it can't compress that bar. Most people notch these on a big angle, but it's a lot of work. I like this way because I've got nice easy notches, and I can put a little gusset on there as well. So I like doing it that way. These obviously get trimmed back once there, and then we'll have another one. You can either go there and cut a lot of that off, or there. I'll decide as we go. And then the other side. So we're making this basically like an A or Y piece, a lot of people call it, that just stops the diff from moving like that. So we'll keep notching and start getting this thing put together. So I've just got a bit of tube that goes right through, chromoly that goes right through the center of the A-bar. You'll always see the back and the front of that. It's got a slide in one side and it's just exposed at the other. So we're gonna lay the saw cut off the end, so it's a nice machined edge to finish on, just so it looks a bit nicer, because you'll always see it. So we'll leave that, and then we'll be ready to start tacking this thing together. So there we go, there's all our pieces of the puzzle sitting together. Obviously a bit tricky to hold these things, and sometimes you make a jig if you're going to make a few, and to put it all together and keep it square and straight. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to put this piece back in the lathe. I'm just going to run just a little tiny little telltale line around there and there with the lathe, and take these bits out of the equation and actually put a square on there and tack those 4 pieces square. Now those two are identical, those two are identical, so as long as they're in line with each other, we can sit it square on the bench, tackle that, and these pieces should just slot in nicely, and that'll then make it a lot easier to line everything up square and straight with that tube. So here we go, we got our telltale groove from the lathe. We're going to put the up against the groove, square it up, repeat, do that 4 times, and that'll get us close to done. Obviously we have to be careful not to do that. They've got to be the right way around. Other than that, we can't go wrong. A couple of quick tips here. This piece is thicker because it's this bit that's got the slides. It needs to be strong. So it's actually slightly thicker OD as well. So if we take that out, you'll see it's ever so slight, and it probably wouldn't matter, but what I did here, just put 2 puckers under there, measured it, rules sounded perfect. You got no play at all there. won't rock. So that's a perfect, that takes up the difference in diameter between that and that. So we've got our telltale line there. They both set the square on that exactly in line. So it should be exactly parallel. And then let's do the other one here now. Basically, I'm on my own here, so it's very hard to hold. So I've set the square right on the telltale there. Now you can see this one, I've tacked it in the middle so that you can move it. So you see it's actually moved a little bit. There's a bit of a gap here. It's tied up in the end there. So by doing one tack, you can move it around. Quite often it'll spring back, as you'll probably see. See, it sprung back just a little. There, just see there. So rather than try to fight it and wrestle with it, what I'll do here, I'll pack it back there so that's dead level. It's always going to pull when you put the tack on. It pulls the two metal. As it cools, it shrinks and it'll always pull. So if you tack this side, it'll pull this way. If you tack this side, it'll pull that way. So we put one in the middle, we set our height, and then I'll put one on the side there, just in the corner, because then that'll pull that bit. So I actually pulled it in a bit, so I'll push it back to where it was and then tack there. It'll pull it in tight, and then double check the square. At that stage you can give it a tap with a hammer and it'll stretch or shrink that tack enough that you'll get it square enough to put the tack on that side, and you'll get it perfectly square, as close to as you can anyway. So there's a few little tips for you when you're welding stuff up. Right, so there we go. There's our A-frame, Y-piece, whatever you want to call it. So this end here gets, the brackets go on there onto the chassis. This end goes under the diff. So as we go up and down, that slide there, it's going to get hot, can slide in and out. As the diff needs to move left and right, it can move left and right. And the slide, the jam, that'll be locked up. Suspension needs to go up and down, it can go up and down, and the slide for the arc, but this can't move. Once it's bolted in, it can't move. Won't let the diff move left or right. So it is a very sturdy piece. They are heavier than just putting a angled bar in. I'll show you more about that as we put it in, but they don't bind up, and that allows you to put that. Everything runs in its motion. The anti-roll bar does what the anti-roll bar should do. The track locator does only what the track locator should do, and the link bars do just what they should do. So that's the key to this kind of suspension, is to get everything working how it should without binding or fighting each other. So that's all I've got time for this week. Next week we will put this thing in the car. So we'll get the rear end all set up and get all the brackets in, and we'll weld it up as well. So there you go. Thanks very much for watching. Don't forget, like and subscribe. See you guys next week.